Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. Welcome back, or if this is your first video, hello! My name is Cara and today I'm going to be doing the second witch book review on this channel, so I hope you enjoy! So the first book we're going to start with is The Psychic Witch. This book is fantastic. I've heard a few TikTokers and a few other people rave about this book. Phenomenal book. It goes through breathing exercises, it goes through different states of breathing. It doesn't have so many spells, but it does have kind of connecting to Gaia. It has different the different symbols and kind of what they mean. It also has entering and exiting different brainwaves, because depending on what you're doing will depend on what wavelength you might want to be on, and all of that is in here. I highly recommend this book. It's maybe not the first book you should get, but it is definitely a book that is for all levels, so I highly recommend this book. This next book, The Witch's Herbal Apothecary. Quite a mouthful, and as you can see I have a lot of sticky notes in it. However, the main reason behind this is the one I've just opened right here, is dream teas. So I would argue this book is more like recipes and information of that kind of sort. They do talk about which spells and which plants and things are good for different times of the year. So if I try and find the beginning of this section, so here we have spring rituals, and then it talks about different plants and different elements. So it has burdock here, and it explains why it's good in the springtime. It explains its main medical and herbal properties, its uses and things like that. So it is very useful. And then it goes into the next one is stinging nettles. And so I do recommend this book if you're very herbal in your witchcraft. Again, for a green witch, this would be great for a green witch. But maybe for other types of witches, depending on what you're doing, it might not be the book for you. I found the author a little bit I wanted to roll my eyes a lot. It's very overly ethereal. That's what I'm gonna use. It seemed very yeah, just get on with it, kind of that stereotypical witchcraft of I'm blessed by the spirits of the, and it's just alright, cool, that's great and all, but can we overly ethereal is kind of the words I'm going to use to describe this author. It was very stereotypical, that gentle, free witch kind of, that ultimate light, free, ethereal witch kind of narration, which for me, even though I am a very light witch, I just found it it felt like it was trying too hard to be ethereal. But that's just me, you know, you might find that you really resonate with the way that the author writes, but for me, it took a while to get through. You can see at the beginning I barely have any sticky notes, and then as I go on and there's recipes and things I start to collect more sticky notes, but for the beginning it was a bit of a chore for me personally. But again, everyone has different writing styles, so maybe you'll love it. If you're a green witch or if you're into herbs, yeah, it has herbal infused apple cider vinegar here, it has what to do with the elderflower, it has all sorts. It is a useful book, but it wouldn't be something I would be hey beginners, please go grab this. It's kind of a, if you want it, great. If you don't need it, you know? Okay, the next one is Moon Spells. In the last book review I did, there was another moonology book. I would say this one is far more beginner friendly. I got through this one very easily. It has spells in here, it has how to do divine messages. So this spell, for example, is love and only for men, which I don't know how I feel about that bit. It has lots of easy, simple instruction. This one here is for well-being and happiness of others. And it talks about it talks about circles, it talks about how to cast formation. It's very beginner friendly towards moonology, whereas the other book was a lot more intermediate. So if you're a beginner, I highly recommend this book. Maybe the other book is more for intermediate or advanced astrology, moon, witches. But yeah, this one's a lot more easy, a lot more beginner friendly. And finally, the last book is this one, Paganism for Beginners. This book, some of these sticky notes are for you guys versus for me. Personally, obviously for me it was a little bit too beginner, but it is phenomenal. If someone said to me, I'm thinking about getting into witchcraft or paganism, this is the book, I'd be get this first. This is the first book. This is the first book that you should get. Yes. One thing about it is it does have specifically US based stuff, but very little. So here it's got pagan by law. That's one of the first things it tells you. So here it says, while the United States government does not officially recognize any religion, paganism is all of its traditions are entitled to and protected by the same protections as the mainstream religion. And then it mentions Canada, it mentions Australia. Okay, so it's not just talking about the US, but like it has like a kind of brief little like, here's what the law says in these countries. So if that's something that you're interested in, then that's great. One thing that is fantastic that they do is they go through different types of paganism. So we've got Alexandrian Wicca, we've got Celtic, polytheism, ceremonial magic, druidry, eclectic, like, and it has just little condensed paragraphs. The one that I really didn't like in the last book review was one that essentially went through like 5 different types of, mostly Wicca to be honest. It was really dry and it wasn't, this is very like condensed and it's very small, but it gives you the information that you want so that you can be like, oh, I'm interested in this branch, you know? So like you can read this straight away and you might go to Celtic polytheism. It briefly describes it as like Irish, Scottish, Welsh and Gauls. It talks about the focus on the deities and mythology, and it just gives you like this kind of little basic summary, and then, you know, you reading it can decide, oh, I want to look more into this, or that's not for me, let me keep going. And you can read that and go, actually, that's the kind of paganism I want to do. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this book because honestly, it's the best book for beginners. That first section of this book just really helps you like narrow down where your craft is going to be, you know? And then it talks about diversity and inclusion. It talks about the fact that witchcraft isn't solely for pagans. It talks about Wicca, it talks about like being in solidarity, it talks about shamanism. I think it even mentions that shamanism is a closed practice. Then it has this whole section on deities, and this section on deities, again, it's very simple, it's very easy to read. It talks about monotheism and polytheism, what they are. It talks about like mythology, and it gives you like a big list of different deities from different pantheons. If you're interested in those deities, like if anybody catches your eye, then you can do more research on them, but it has a big list of various deities and kind of what they're about. It talks about finding a pantheon versus being like more eclectic, and the way it's designed is so beautiful and it's so simple and easy to read. Like I flew through this, like this book I had to really commit to trying to read it. Like it felt more of a, didn't quite feel like a chore, like that's a bit excessive, but it was hard to read, whereas this is just like an easy read, super simple. You don't leave the book confused, like you learn, especially if you're new. It talks about Sabbaths and holidays, and again it's simple, it's concise, it lets you know everything that you need to know without getting into too much detail, again because it knows that there's other books. This is like as it says on the tin, it is for beginners, and for me I'd argue it is the best book for beginners. Like this is the best book that I've found thus far. One thing that I absolutely loved about this book is it talks about like human seasons, as it calls it, and it's like it talks about pregnancy, it talks about welcoming a baby and how you can use your practice in that. It talks about marriage, and it talks about like getting older and coming of age, death, all these different elements of life, and it gives you like a little basic concise thing of like different things you can do as a pagan when these events occur. It's just, I love this book. And then it goes into elements, which again a lot of them do. Again, very simple. So air, it's like related to the sky. Air is an element of movement and change. It also relates to the mind and mental abilities. It's important to be open-minded. Associated with spring and yellow, sometimes white, blue and gold. So it gives you like a basic overview of like what that is. Pagan symbols and what they mean and like where they're from. So it talks about the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Ra, Tree of Life. It talks about Arwen, which is a druidic word. It talks about Valnut, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, like in Norse. It talks about Thor's hammer, the Mjolnir. It goes into different things that you can use for spellcraft, like pentacles and bells and swords and wands, and candles, robes. And then it goes into pagan rituals, so prayer, worship, like different ways that you can perform rituals. And it even has a little quiz near the back where if you're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure, it gives you this little quiz, and if you answer mostly one or the other, it'll be like, so for example, mostly E is shamanism, mostly F is very focused on like polytheistic tradition. So you can go through and work out what it thinks that you're more suited for. Then you can either reread or, you know, look into it more. Very, very good book. This is the book that if any beginner comes to me, this is the book I'm going to recommend. In fact, one of my friends here in Japan is starting to get more into, she's talked about like the idea of getting into witchcraft, and I told her as soon as I finished this review she could have this book. Like, this book is going to her, I'm not keeping it. For me it's too beginner, but it's so good, so useful. Beginner witches, this book is for you. It's for you. Take it. Just take it. It's yours. So that is the 4 books that I'm going to be reviewing today. Let me know if you enjoyed it in the comments down below. Let me know if there's any books that you would want me to read and review for you. If you're just here for my witchcraft videos, then that's fine. There is a playlist. And if you are interested in other things that I do, there is a group of playlists where I talk about nerdy things, I talk about the environment. I have a whole bunch of different themes and fun stuff on this channel, so if you just want to focus on witchcraft, cool. If you're interested in other stuff, go check that out in my playlist. For right now, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all next time. Thank you. Bye!